Welcome to Answers from the Universe and the Andronicus transmissions on Wolf Spirit Radio, Ever Beyond Radio, and Studio 9 Jam on YouTube. With your host, Jessica Ariel Morocco, featuring JP as the voice of Andronicus. Please visit www.readingsbyrael.com, that's A-R-A-E-L.
From the future, by way of the past. I bought my ticket for the 15th century. We started moving through a hole in history.
You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. And yes, I'm back home. Yay, it's good, and it's kind of good. It's good because everyone knows where to find me, but then it's good because everyone knows where to find me. I can't be hidden anymore. I felt like I was anonymous, like I had that mask on, I was walking around, nobody knew who I was, and that was good. It's kind of a fun feeling.
You went on an anonymous rally.
Yes, I did.
Really? Oh, what was that like?
Not in the rally per se, just I'm saying I'm making believe that I was anonymous.
Oh, right, you're just walking around with a Guy Fawkes mask on.
Yes. People didn't know who I was. I was just kind of in another place, and it was good. It was a nice little break. I told everyone I was on vacation. Some people got a little ticked off. They thought I was ignoring them, and please don't take it personal. Sometimes I told people I have to hear myself think, even though others are talking to me all the time. It seems like there's the chatter beyond the chatter, so I really needed just some rest and R&R and kind of to get through whatever. It's been a very, very intense past couple of years. So, before making any other transitions and trying to make some decisions about what I'm going to do in the near future, which I have some options, just hanging in there and, keeping those options open, and spend some time with my son and family members and friends that I hadn't seen in a while. So it's all very good, and happy to be back. Another thing that's coming up is that I started to put together the book for the Andronicus transmission. So all the transmissions will be put together in a book, which will be wonderful, so then people can look through and read everything. And I know that people often say, well, I listened to the transmission about 3 or 4 times, and they're trying to get all the different pieces of information. So this way they can look at it, and then they can refer it. And I decided to start compiling it in such a way that it's actually in chronological order, and then when the other characters show up besides Andronicus, that there's this other, that's also included in the chapter, so you know who came up when. And I'm considering dating everything as well, so people have a reference point of when all this stuff transpired, and if they want to look into anything that happened, any parallels or interesting pieces of information. I mean, there's so much that has come through the channeling that I forget a lot of it until I look at it and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that part. And so I'll have the transmissions there, and I'll also have bits and pieces of conversation that we had that provides even further clarity in each chapter. And of course, JP, you've been a very, very important piece of this. Not only just being the voice, but actually, carrying the energy often of these different ones that have come through. So it's been wonderful. It's been a very, very nice journey, and embarking on that new journey ahead. with it, and looking forward to seeing a finished book. And hopefully others will be able to appreciate it and enjoy referencing it whenever they want to. So,
well, that's so you've had a chance to kind of gather your thoughts and likewise thinking about gathering things together, like the transmissions. I've been receiving from Martin. You know Martin in Germany. He's been editing out some of the
Zaganier.
Yeah. Oh, well done. And he's basically edited all of the early shows, not all of them, but from, I think, up to about number 25 or somewhere.
Oh.
And I think it's about number 22, 23, when he first starts to meet these other characters like Rhodan, and he talks about how he met Rhodan and that, Rhodan was very dismissive.
The blue room.
Yeah, and the
the famous blue room.
This puffy blue room, that was weird. And, all this rather bizarre, it appears to be like a fantasy sequence, where the purple smoke and Zamfir's purple smoke and Borkum's purple smoke, yeah.
Smoke.
Yeah, so whatever that's all about. But it's just really interesting because they didn't, they weren't very nice to him at all, at the beginning,
That's because he broke the timelines. He was messing with the timelines, and I think that is what started the whole problem. But, believe me, Andronicus is quite resilient, and he still does whatever he wants to do or whatever he feels is the right thing to do. And so there are further communications anyhow. But we do have information, and we have information from BaeLord today, from Mars, from let's see, Andronicus, Rhodan, and Meetis. And then in the second hour, we're going to bring in my friend Davey, and he lives in Scotland, and you're a neck of the woods, JP.
Oh.
He's going to tell us some stories that he's had with unexplained events and happenings. So it should be a really good show today, and I'm looking forward. I'm really happy to be back and always connected to you, Andronicus. And the group, the clan Andronicus, and those that are interested in Andronicus and what's going on, and of course, just to remind people that, you can still be a part of, clan Andronicus if you want to be a part on Facebook and see what's going on and connecting in. We'd love to, welcome whoever is interested to join us, and, lots of love, of course, always. And always, open to people's ideas, as long as it's not, bringing in other ideas that are, cause any type of conflict. It's all about harmony. Perspective is good. Everyone has their own perspective, but we do encourage people to come in and join and just think, how things, what you want to contribute, it's a great place to do that. So anyhow, yeah, and hello to everyone out there in chat. It's nice to see you all, and lots of love. And we're going to go forward with the transmissions. We got some music here too today, so
oh yeah, lots of
I
music.
hope you enjoy that as well.
We got a lovely chubby chat room here. Lots of people there. Lots of
chubby chat room.
Yes.
All right.
good and thick and chubby.
You have to do it with the Scottish accent. Maybe that will.
Don't ask me to do Scottish, because whenever I do an accent, it's like, that's a terrible accent. Don't do that. But anyway, in this hour, no matter what I say, that's my accent and I'm sticking with it. So that's fine. So where should we go first? Who should we speak with?
Let's go to Andronicus.
Okay. Right. right.
Since he's the feature
the
of the
star
show.
of the show, isn't he? Bless his Andromedan heart.
Andromedan. I was telling them, I said, I kept on calling this the Andromedan transmissions, but you kept on calling it the Andronicus transmissions.
Yes.
And so I'm looking through all of the transmissions and the titles, and it goes from Andronicus to Andromedan to, it's just a mess. And I said, well, that's because JP kept on saying the Andronicus transmissions, so it was too close in name, whatever happened, but.
There was also a time when in my head it was the Andronicus Chronicles.
I know, I remember that. And
I couldn't get it out of my head. It's just like, I said it every time.
You did. And you could see it. You could see it when I saved all the files that I was so confused at the end. And then towards the end I was just like, all right, do not add anything else, just the name and the number.
Just the name and the number. Stick it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, eventually we'll, I'm sure, you've got the book cover there, so that's pretty nice. I like that.
It's gonna be awesome. And I could never have the book cover without your face on it, JP.
Oh, bless your heart. Even though I have the face for radio, there I am.
No. No, let's be nice. Let's love.
It's fine.
Let's be kind to one another and ourselves.
But no, it's a thing.
You've got a very beautiful, dignified, wonderful, handsome face.
Oh, thank you, sweetheart. That's right. Right. So, shall we dive down? Okay, pinch your nose. We're going to dive in. I'm still here in LA. Feeling the wind on my back and the scorching sun. I arrived at a home with many levels and rooms. There were some people shacking up together, and I came with a few friends. We could smell the incense from outside and a bitter smell from the basement. I didn't want to partake of what was cooking down there, but it was a new drug process. We were disguised as the regulars, but as you know, we are far from regular. I took a few samples to analyze what humans were getting into. It appeared that their psychic awareness had been opening and had so many portals along, and so had many portals along with it. It felt natural to be there. Everyone in the house greeted us and offered us a room. I made myself at home and began talking to a few in the kitchen. This is when I heard of your tragic death. It appeared the discussion I had with you about not making waves didn't settle in. You got yourself in a lot of trouble and exited too soon. My heart was heavy for the rest of the day. I was hoping to find you again. When our group of Andromedans step in, we don't stay long, just short missions and data collecting. Sometimes a bit of mingling, but not too much. We don't like to break any hearts along the way. Humans are quite delicate emotionally and can get quite easily attached. Besides, we're here to assist the opening of the mind and the heart to the universe. Others are here to support technological advancements for humanity to get them up to speed with the galactic communities. It is a careful process, and we come and observe often, but cannot stay long enough to protect It is a careful process, and we come and observe often, but cannot stay long enough to protect individuals like you, Suma. This is why it happens. You're warned, and then we must move along, although it doesn't make me feel any better. You're beginning to understand and see the sources of your problems, finally. Despite our knowledge, you are quite able to protect yourself if you are awakened enough to see the cause or root of the source attacking you. I have left much up to you to not only protect yourself, but many others as well. You're doing much better as the child rather than the dream girl you once were. The child's heart is pure and untainted by the density of life, unfettered by the control systems, and sees clearly into the eyes of Source. Now then, in time, you will help us as well. Keep yourself open and never return to the place of unending dreams and illusions. Though tempting to dwell in that space, it is the most vulnerable place possible. I'm certain you know what I mean by it. There are 2 more surrogate lifetimes that need to be resolved. As soon as that is done, we can begin to work with you again. Until that time, make minimal waves. Just don't go overboard, if you know what I mean. Very well. Now that conversation has come to fruition, I can begin to focus on other things. I will let you know what needs to happen next. By the way, 2 stars were completely removed that had been in the constellations for a very long time. We thought it might lift some weight off you as well as many others. They always wanted to be worshipped and praised in the forefront. We can forget they existed. Just a major interference and distraction for humanity. Tread lightly, my child. You will fly much higher now and top the trees with your magic stars of light. Be safe and remember we are near to you now, more so than ever before. That's a bit loud. Anyway. Whoa. 2 stars completely removed.
Yeah. And I don't know who they were, and he didn't really want to tell me. So I think they were just, it's like mental clutter. Some beings are there just to create distractions. Maybe they needed to be brought into a place where they can learn. I didn't feel like it was, a total removal, but, I don't know if it's literal or symbolic, but definitely brought to a place where they didn't have persuasion. It's kind of like the process of ascension. There are those that are making a lot of noise, but and distracting people from where they should be. And so I believe that's what he was talking about.
So, yes, and you were doing much better as the child rather than the dream girl you once were.
Daydreamer. Yeah, daydreamer from a place of a child, from an early childhood, and kind of caught up, and he's brought into. Well, I mean, this is where I was able to step into dimensions and spaces, and but not awakened it's not a good combination, and it brings you into illusion. And so he was just reminding me to stay out of that space.
And don't make waves. What does he mean by that?
Oh, that's the don't make waves. Remember we talked about that with that whole situation with the last week's show with Sharon Tate incident, and the dancing.
Oh yes, the dancing, making the waves.
Making the waves, the energy wave frequencies. And so I guess it's happened a bunch of times where I'd, be going out dancing with friends, and then they'd get pulled out of it. So, and apparently in that time it was an aspect of my expression. I was dancing, and it ended up in a fatal incident. So he said, he warned me, and then he came back and I was already gone. So he warned me, he left, and then came back again. Yeah. So, so he said minimal waves. He didn't say I couldn't make any waves. So I got a little bit of leeway there. That's good. You like to be able to enjoy a bit and
sway around to some music. Oh God.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm tired. Suddenly I'm sleeping.
Late night, huh?
Well, so, yeah, so what else was, so using away, and, that's probably Owsley down there with him. Do you know who Owsley was? One of the merry pranksters, but, wake up. Hang on, that's better. They produced LSD in the basement.
Yeah, that's what I didn't know if it was LSD or something. He said it smelled bitter. So, and I don't know. I mean, I was thinking, well, it can't be some of the stuff that they're making now.
No, it wouldn't be crystal meth. From the 60s.
Yeah. No, it wasn't crystal meth. But
bitter.
Is that how they make?
It may be amphetamines. Amphetamines taste bitter. So
okay,
like speed,
he said it was
what they call speed.
Coming out of the basement. Yeah, it was really kind of weird. Yeah, and I'm having trouble opening up the Rhodan one.
Okay, so is it Rhodan next? Let me just...
I was going to do Rhodan next, but let me see if I have it further here.
I've got it here. It's an ODT
82,
file,
right?
it doesn't have a number. Hang on. I've got to look at it. go here. Yes, 82.
Okay, yeah, I don't see that I have. Why don't we go to BaeLord?
All right, you haven't got Rhodan. Shall I send it back?
Send it back to me, and then we'll go into BaeLord.
Mm-hmm. Right, there's Rhodan. So, BaeLord. Okay. It's frozen. Oh, well, there we go. And here's my little BaeLord thing. Picayune and other Pics are in the 5th parallel. They are in a process of healing from the 16th parallel. What a hard word. Sorry. I decided to help Picayune and the others in healing and then allowed them to return to the parallel where they needed to be. I was then drawn to the 23rd parallel. I was... Hello. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll start again. Picayune and the other Pics are in the 5th parallel. They are in a process of healing from the 16th parallel. I decided to help Picayune and the others in healing and then allowed them to return to the parallel where they needed to be. I was then drawn to the 23rd parallel, which is the final destination for the Pics. Parallel 23. There are vineyards, potatoes, root vegetables, fruit trees like a paradise. Everyone is thriving there. Then I was pulled in to observe the 18th blowhole coming from the earth and emitting molten fire, volcanic fire that was introduced from the depths of the earth by Leonard Kroom. Dionysus. Oh, you want to say this?
No, you can.
All right.
Go ahead.
Dionysus here. BaeLord draws him out and observes Leonard Kroom in creating a molten fire on the inside. He's making a clapping sound to draw up the red-yellow molten streaks that come eerily up and streak slowly into one of the crevices. He moves with the fire. I noticed that Picayune and 4 others are trapped in a cave after searching for Leonard Kroom. Shiva has arrived and sends the fires deep inside of the planet where they belong. All of the Pics become free who are trapped in the cave. In this dimension, Picayune gets hard hit again in her lungs. There is a Viking in here who doesn't belong there amongst the Pics. He and Picayune had a conflict. The Viking leaves the planet and the Pics and is brought back to his natural surroundings and native land of the Isle of Man. Something's gone wrong. I can't scroll down.
Okay.
Oh, God. Hang on, I'm going to have to close a few
Well,
windows.
it picks up where Picayune and the other Pics are still on the 5th parallel.
Yeah. Well, that's so weird.
Yeah.
Hang on, I have to...
I think I'm supposed to read this part anyhow.
Yeah, you read that bit and let's see if I can get back to it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Picayune and the other Pics are still in the 5th parallel, and the healing is complete there. We are now moving into the 6th parallel, which had been cleared and healed, and then Picayune is restored back to her health and returned back to her mate, a broad man of dark hair and fair skin. And the 18th parallel is now being restored, which had a removal of an overlay from the 18th dimension, which needed to be removed, an illusional overlay. I still believe there is much chaos in all of this, but much has to be restored back to the original place and time. This highly affects the Earth and many involved. The lineage of the Pics are being restored and healed in the many societies that they had mingled with. How are you doing, BaeLord?
I'm weary, my friend. It has been a very long journey for all of us. The fruitful end is what keeps us strong, courageous, and hopeful. We wish the same for many of the clans and Earth people who have suffered from our experiences. Of course, we had no influence over our persuasion regarding how the parallels connect to the Earth as you know it. But you do realize that things are changing. The surface is not what it once was, and much more needs to be done to keep all of us intact. Take, for example, our portals to your lands. The lands were so fertile and lovely. I hope to return again, but for now, our journey continues to remove the likes of Leonard Crumb, and so be it for any calamitous renegade. I'll take the flask of the humble and share my good strong drink with the first spill to the earth, then the wave of overing into the sky. My last offer goes to the water, then I partake of the drink. We remember who keeps us alive, and so shall you all in time. Farewell, my friends. Breathe well, my Pictish clansman and woman. Drink and live life. Drink and live like life is a gift as never before. That was the hardest thing to say. Like multiple, those word parallels, and then there's live like life is a gift. Like, that was really hard to, like, see what it was, which one it is. Like life, live like life. Live like life is a gift. Yeah, that's it. Meanwhile, so.
Rhodan, I've got it.
You got it. Okay, so let's go back to Rhodan. That's a bit all over the place today. Sorry about that, everybody. And my mic keeps crapping out. I'm going to have to take it apart. Okay. Just a minute.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm just saying something. Try again. We're now in a better place. We've finally been able to secure and protect our many loved ones. I apologize for you having to put your lives on hold until this was completed. In time, we will take back what is ours, and we'll be more aggressive in doing so now that we know everyone is safe. The slips in time are many. There are more glitches and time anomalies than humans realize. With every anomaly or slip in time, there was an intrusion from alternate and parallel realities or other. They come from all directions with various intentions, and we have not discovered a method to prevent it from happening. In part, I feel that this was a natural order of things. Something greater within the system of humanity was dictating the opening or access points of time in regard to consciousness shifts. The source of all things orders a check and balance within all contrasts. I suppose you know that the conscience and way of being is the guiding light to all things. The inner light or darkness shifts a change as a motion vector triggers a trap. I'm out of the timeline now, and I'm standing as an observer watching time trigger and dance with destiny. How deep do you want to enter into the truths of your reality?
In my responses, I want to know what there is to know so I can help others and become more awakened to my own personal memories as well as the mysteries of the universe.
Then you shall have it as you and those around you are searching for truths. So shall the truth be revealed within the pure heart intent. Those who listen to our words are seeking something beyond the mortal existence and time constructs. Remember, there is nothing ordinary in time-space as it was intended. It is impossible to be bored in your time construct, yet some manage still to embrace it. All and every rule can be broken, but be forewarned, there are repercussions and unexpected shifts of energy when change comes, both good and bad. I'll leave you with this. Be true to yourselves in the heart song of your own soul. Let none persuade you to be contrary to your inner truths. Always and forever your friend, Rhodan. Mm-hmm. So he was saying, how do you want it?
Yeah.
How much truth can you handle?
Yeah. It's up to us.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're only limited by what we're willing to take in and what we're willing to experience and I don't know. I mean, I don't think I think we are essentially unlimited, actually. But, we can only move along at our own individual pace, and then collectively at a pace where we leave none behind. So it is a natural process, isn't it?
So, shall we go to Mars?
Yeah, let's go to Mars.
I'm going to use this one.
No.
No.
No. What is that, Vietnam or something?
That one's called Sounds of War.
Sounds of War. Yeah, that's a little scary, but...
A bit scary. Okay, what can we do? No, we don't want to...
Wow.
See what we got. What's this one?
I think just like a tribal drum or something. All right.
So there we are.
A little better than the machine gun.
Better than the machine gun. That one's called Imminent Disaster. So.
Okay. Well, we'll still keep looking for the one from Mars.
Yeah. See, if you know, he might even suggest one. Anyway, meanwhile, Mars. I come to speak to you about my planet. There is a facility there that is creating cyborgs and harnessing souls that is not allowed on my planet. I've been very patient with humanity and the greed of the elite, but for them to build facilities on my planet without my consent is going to cause greater problems for those involved. I've allowed them to explore, to build, create and experience advanced technology. I've allowed them to live on my space, to see what can be done without interference, and yet I still feel their rebellion against me. The time of me being a gracious host is no more. I'm setting down some rules and forewarning many, reminding all that the planet Mars is mine, not an outpost for humanity. If they choose to utilize my planet for destructive purposes or to harm humanity, they will have to answer to me. The cyborg facility is not allowed. The souls harnessed within the cyborgs will be set free from their robotic traps and artificial bodies. In 2 weeks I will be done waiting for a response. The souls will be set free and the bodies will be used for scrap metal. That's all I have to say for now.
Many people thought you were in consent with this behavior because it was happening on your planet. I'm glad to see this isn't the case. Enough has happened on Earth towards humanity, and we don't want another location where humans are mistreated. You want to see sovereignty for humanity on every planet and every outpost, and for them becoming equal with other galactic races. I don't like how some of the Pleiadians and Arcturians and other similar races see that we should be subservient to them, or humans in particular should be subservient to these groups. In my opinion, they already have a lot of explaining to do.
I agree. They need to stick with their position in the stars and remember where they came from instead of manipulating other societies as they often do. I guess we're in agreement. And we can remember our alliances as always that keeps peace amongst the galactic community. Never worry. Everything that has been done under the sun has been seen. You are no longer responsible for what was hidden from you. We know you do not consent or agree with any of it. Much love to you, Venus. Mars. I like that one.
It's sort of like a spy mystery sound.
Yeah. It's just somebody's just like the door has opened and they've seen what's inside the door.
Yeah, little 007.
Yeah.
Sort of, and maybe something else. I don't know.
Well, we'll see what we can find. We'll keep experimenting.
Yeah.
We try various.
Every
ones.
day's an adventure.
Yep. Here we go.
Okay.
So where else have we got? We've done BaeLord, we've done Andronicus, we've done Rhodan, we've got Mars. There's only one left. Only one left. Hello, my lovely flower. It's been a while since we talked. Although it may appear to you that it wasn't long ago. I left the time of London and the industrial city to return back to the feudal lords. I'm in Lancashire now,
There's been a lot of trouble amongst the good people of the earth and the lords. The barter isn't fair, the labour is backbreaking, and many have blisters on their hands and feet. Many want for bread, but the Lord's generosity is lacking. A few of the common people lit fire in the fields, and one has lost a child because of hunger. Another one, suffering from unexplained pains in his arms and legs, has grown too weary to farm any longer. What to do? I feel their pain. They bundle up their children close to them to keep them warm, wrapping shawls around their bodies. Some make coats of burlap, another material in between that they find in the fields that prevents the wind from cutting through it. One generous soul literally gave me the coat off his back in exchange for some food. I shall reward him greatly for that. He seemed to be quite hardy and rigorous and unaffected by the weather, but quite hungry nevertheless. I have 2 ideas to remedy this problem, and I shall attend to a gentleman whom you refer to as Nick, who lives by the homestead by trolley. He has a gathering on occasion of the local folk. He studies the weak and the knees and the volatile personalities. In his humble abode, many barter for whatever need they have. In his humble abode, many barter for whatever need they have. There are those that can do a quick stitch for the uninjured. No. There are those that can do a quick stitch for the injured. There are some that can share a few herbs for the distempered and other maladies. Some are very good at crafting garments and fortifying footwear and necessary protective clothing for the unreliable winters and rains. Sometimes they leave in vegetables, seasonal crops, candles, and a tool made of iron if one can so afford. Because of his generosity, many came and lifted a barn for him where he could have the weak creatures, not fit for the lords, and share the abundance with the group. He shared the eggs with many from the unhealthy chickens that he nourished back to health. His wife Anne bakes lots of bread and biscuits and coarse rye, what would you know as pumpernickel bread. Anne's family was originally from Germany. Nick's neighbour John, who had a hearty laugh, was the purveyor of spirits that he fermented from leftover wheat. Our weekend gatherings with Nick helped ease the pain and sorrows of the struggles of many. At first my heart wept to see the struggles, but I began to sing and dance, and all the hearts grew brighter. The labour seemed lighter, and the sorrows seemed to pass over to the wayside. Some don't realise that a little openness of heart can ease the sorrow of many. I'm sure those people were never the same, and they flourished beyond the controls of the feudal lords by the assistance of friends and family abounding. Yeah. Here's a song for you all. Old bellies fed and one less dead. It's not poverty that holds us down. Yes, I know, it's a Bob Dylan song.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The fruitful earth gives more than what's worth. Abundance all around. The birds still sing, the wind does blow, the sun does heal all creatures below. Fear not what they take, though poverty may break. The universe cares when many learn to share, give and take. The barter flourishes and will never break, though the pockets have holes and the socks reveal toes. A kindly gesture is more pleasant than a rose. A kindly gesture is more pleasant than a rose. A kindly gesture is more pleasant than a rose. That's the one. A kindly gesture is more pleasant than a rose.
Yeah.
Well, we know where that came from.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, reuse the tune and
It started
or
there.
borrow the tune. It worked, didn't it?
Yeah. And, well, apparently, Dylan himself, plagiarized most of his stuff from old folk songs, so it's not like we're nicking his stuff,
I know. So that totally justifies it.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. He's the thief.
So you Nick, he Nick, and then this is all about Nick.
This is all about Nick, that's right.
La la la. And Tweedledee. But, and also, I think it was that Paul said that, didn't I say that I got a strong Meetis vibe from Nick the other day?
All right.
Yes, Paul, you did. You did. Honestly, true. You did. So, we'll give you credit on that one, but not all of your predictions are 100% yet, Paul. We're going to have to talk about that.
So maybe Nick's channeling Meetis, in the same way. It's just like
no, I know. It's all fun. It's all fun, and I think that just being in that place where people are all, talking and having fun. It's just like the chat room. It's like one big community, and I'm looking at them going back and forth, and it's awesome. It's it's what it's all about. People being friendly and likable, and it's awesome. We're gonna have Davey. He's going to be joining us, and he's from your neck of the woods over there in Scotland.
So he is.
With some paranormal tales.
Ooh.
Some of them are from the region, and some of them are not, but hopefully he's back from his trip, and he's doing some things today, so that he can come in and join us. Otherwise, God only knows what I talk about afterwards.
Oh, I'm sure you've got plenty to talk about, Jessica.
Yeah.
It's not like you live a boring life.
No, it's a little abnormal, but boring, no, probably not.
Never boring.
No, I could be sitting talking to someone and get about 10 phone calls within an hour. You never know. So, it's just the way it is. And, a little bit of a social butterfly, so I don't mind any of it at all, actually. It's all good. And, it's nice to be able to go over everything, and I like this story. Now, I just want to tell you about this story with Meetis. He was in London in the time of the Industrial Revolution, the last time we talked to him, and then he stepped back. So, decided to go back to this feudal time, and then he told me exactly where he was, and I looked up and tried to see who the feudal lord was around the time. I don't know if it was the same one or not. But when he brought up, that they were making bread, and Nick's wife, Anne, he called her Anne, but I'm sure that's not her name now. She was, looks like we have our guest trying to call in. She was making bread and then biscuits, and I was like, well, did they have biscuits then? And then he said pumpernickel, and I said, this is a joke. I said, they didn't have pumpernickel then, and he said, yes, they had pumpernickel, and he had me look it up, but it was actually not from that area, but is a coarse rye.
Yeah, it's from Germany. Black bread from Germany, yeah.
Yeah, and he said that Anne's family was originally from Germany. So, I thought that was interesting. It was really, kind of fun to kind of, check the channeling, and what was coming through. And so I learned a few things in the processes when he was talking about what it was like. And he told the story about how the man, was frustrated because he lost a child, from poverty. And hunger, and I could see the people, they had these shawls, these women had these shawls, and they wrapped the shawls tightly around them so they can hold the child close to keep body heat.
Keep them warm.
Yeah, and the clothing, and they were creative. They kind of used like material from the fields and kind of tucked it inside of the material, so to give it a little extra, like an insulation.
Oh.
And what was the other thing? The gentleman that had pains all over, I think it was a form of arthritis.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was to do with wheat.
Oh, well, I
You know
mean,
how
there were
people
no
get wheat
GMOs
problems.
in it, but but you think it might have been the wheat?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, pains in the body. Yeah, it could be arthritic. Lack of vitamin D maybe as well.
Yeah, well, it sounds like they didn't have very much of a diet, and it sounded like Nick was sort of had a haven of some sort where they could go to and then support one another, and just help get through whatever they needed to with bartering, and even.
And they had a regular meeting. They would meet every Friday.
Yeah.
This is something that I've been talking about, because you remember I used to have this jam session. I used to have a studio, and I used to invite people on a Friday, come along and we'll just play music. Just no rules, just play music. And it also became a kind of meeting place and a place for people who didn't see many other people in the week. So, sounds like a similar sort of thing, and people would barter there. It was part of our let system.
And yeah, it's something to look at because, some of the societies that make it are ones that learn to work as a group and help one another and have something to trade. And, and over the years I've noticed that they have these farmers markets and different types of fairs that I participated in as a reader, and, meeting with people, and then there'd be other vendors there, and sometimes they'd want to sit down and get some insight from my psychic insight or whatever to help them. And then they'd say, well, I don't have any money. Would you be interested in some of the products I have? And I'd get some really cool stuff, and I didn't do that with everyone, but, those that I have the policy that I don't like to turn anyone away if they're looking for help. And, also on a side note, if anyone's been trying to reach me and I didn't get back to you while I was away, please just connect with me again. Sorry, I'm not trying, I want to make sure that, if you've, made a payment that I want to honor that. So, that's a little side note, but yeah, but in the fairs we would, just try to see what would make someone happy, and some people would make their homemade soaps, and a lot of people I found have gone back to making their own products because they don't like the chemicals and the other things that are in it, and they want to know exactly for sure that it's somewhat pure. And people growing their own herbs and making their own perfumes and lotions, soaps, and candles, whatever it is that makes their life a little luxurious and feel wonderful, and it's clean and it enhances their experience here. So I kind of like it when I hear about these times when they go back in the past. You learn a little bit here and there. So
we got some tunes. So we put on some tunes, and after the tunes we'll bring in Davey, or during the tunes we can sit there. Starting with which? You got three tunes this week. Do you want? Are there reasons that you bring these tunes?
Yeah, they just seem to work together. So why don't we start with How Bizarre by OMC, and then after that Steeler's Wheel, Stuck in the Middle with You, and the last song is Gavin James, The Book of Love. Okay, so we're back, and wasn't that a beautiful song? I love it. Nothing but love, and then love on top of love. That's what makes the world go around, doesn't it? I mean, if we have something here to live for, something to look forward to, if we wake up and we have hope and belief that everything's going to be all right, we just want to keep it positive, and something that makes the work not feel like work. It makes life feel meaningful. So just to keep you all in a positive place. And now we're going to also be open-minded to all the many things that are around us, and looking in not just the 3D, but beyond. So we're looking beyond the 3D, and I have a great guest here, my friend Davey, who lives in Scotland. Just recently met JP, so I didn't meet him through JP, even though they're neighbors. And Davey's going to tell us some stories. He's been around the block a few times and has some wisdom and knowledge and experience. And I hope you enjoy the stories as much as I do, because it's one of those things where you're trying to figure out what in the world he experienced and how these things can happen, but they do. Okay, so Dave, how are you today?
I'm very well, thanks, guys. Yeah, excellent, and very grateful for the day, as we say. So I was out on my bike tonight. I do a lot of cycling, and I always meet interesting people. I stop on the cycle path, or if there's people with animals or children or stuff, and invariably people talk, and that was the case tonight. I only did about 20 miles, but I did meet some very interesting people, and it's really great, you know. Sometimes I think that everything's upside down and that, you know, there's a bit of gloom and despondency going around, and then I go on the bike and I find the opposite. So hey, you know, meant to be.
Yeah, and you know, it sounds like you've met a lot of people, you know, on your bike, and you're a very social, outgoing person, but also you find out things that way too, don't you?
Yes, you do. And sometimes I've had information that I didn't recognize it for being what it was at the time, and it's only later on it makes some sense. And there's been quite a lot of that over the years. I'm a slow learner.
Well, I think we all are. Yeah. You know, we're all kind of learning, and then we're learning through other people too, and trying to figure out how. I think that's the way we learn as a collective group, as opposed to, you know, just our individual paths. It takes quite a long time and multiple lifetimes, but you know, maybe we can ramp it up a bit by learning from others' experiences and then skipping over that part. So, tell me, Dave, we talked about this road that is not that far from you, and first of all, why don't we say a little bit about where you live and you know, what's around you? We're in Scotland.
Well, I live in the north of Scotland in a small ex-fishing town called Lossiemouth. It used to have a fishing fleet of about over 100 vessels at one time, not so long ago. But the European agricultural and common fisheries policies put paid to all of that stuff, so that most of the fishing industry now in the UK is gone. But it's full of ex-fishermen, and it's a nice town to live in. It's a pleasant locality. 2 fabulous beaches. You know, well located. The only drawback is the good old Scottish weather, which is kind of takes a lot to get used to.
JP doesn't know anything about that.
I'm sure
it's only been, how long has it been? Since about 5 years I've been moaning almost constantly, every show, something to do with the weather, something to do with how extraordinarily crap it is compared with everywhere else.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you there, JP. If it was extraordinarily crap, it would be okay, but it's worse than that. You know, it's striving to get into the extraordinarily crap bracket. You know, really not good at all. And as JP, I've no doubt, has told you, we spend approximately now, recently over the last 3-4 years, about, you know, sometimes up to sort of 5-6 months in cold. And it does have an effect on people's energy fields, as you guys know better than I do. And it kind of drags the collective down a bit. But hey, we persevere and we strive upwards and onwards. So, there are compensation factors in the kind of locality, and the vast majority of people I meet now are, you know, good guys, sound people. But I realized that came about as changes took place in me, because before that, believe you me, everyone was the enemy. I was at war with myself, didn't understand any of that. And so I'm up in Lossiemouth, next to the base. And I served at that base many, many years ago. I was in the Royal Navy. I spent 32 years in the military. And I had a very different military career to a lot of people. I did a lot of military training and was selected for various programs that were going on, and an awful lot of soldier type training, and well, not soldier type, it was soldiering, and I ended up in the military side of it. So I then, when I left the military, I went and worked overseas. I've been round the world, really, from the Arctic to the Antarctic, South America, Far East. I was based in the Far East at one time. Lived in Europe, various countries in Europe. Alma, my wife, is Serbian. She's from South Serbia. And we met when I worked in Kosovo, where I was involved in security operations for the UN mission, until I joined up some dots and then got the hell out of there, because I joined up dots to the degree that they didn't want me to join them up. And I came to understand that the picture that I saw was radically different to the one that they presented to me. And like many, many other servants of that organisation, you're left with a choice. You either take part or you get out. But I'm not like that, so I couldn't take part. I got out. I'm very grateful for my health. I am 67 years old. I've got the mind of a 5-year-old sometimes, I think.
That's a good place to be. I dwell there often.
These alternative realities that we create are fabulous.
Well, I don't know if they're fantasy, but yeah, they're definitely bizarre.
Yeah.
And strange, yeah. and weird, but I think the way that you handle life, if you have the mentality of a child, you can forgive people a lot faster because they have the attention span of a gnat, and they also know how to get along with everyone. They're non-judgmental, and they don't see any race, culture differences, gender, or anything, and they also have a free connection to the God source. So it's a great place to be. So thanks for being there.
It's only now, though I have to be perfectly honest, that Alma, my wife, she knows a lot more than me, and she keeps me right, because sometimes I'm not so good. I'm good with words, but I'm not so good at action sometimes, and I'm still a wee bit shy on the love and forgiveness side of life. But it's kind of conditional still, but I'm working on it, and I'm aware that I'm lacking in certain areas. So I do a lot of self-analysis and a lot of, inner work and stuff to try and remedy all of that. And, up to now, I'm quietly happy with where I am. But I know there's much more on offer. I do know that.
Yeah.
It all changed for me when I died. I had a really bad accident.
That's right. You had a near-death experience, which also I think opened you up further. So you're a world traveler through military associations, but you're also an extrovert. We can come to that agreement, right? Would you say that you're an extrovert? You talk to people on the street. You bump into people. Everybody's open to be a friend to you. Yeah. And so now then on top of that, you've traveled all over. You met people in all various different cultures and backgrounds, and now here you are, and then you have an accident. What happens? I
wasn't so much of a communicator in those days. I was more of a judgment officer. My task was to judge humanity, good or bad, good to the left, bad to the right. If you could help me or advance my case or my cause, then you were a good guy. It didn't matter who you were. You were just a super person, The rest of you, they were pushed into the big sheep pen of people who were not to be trusted or counted for anything. And I died on the operating table. I was on an operating table for about 11 hours. The operation lasted 10 and a half, but they didn't want to move me, I was told later. And then a couple of days later, I thought I was experiencing a heart attack, but it wasn't a heart attack, or I don't know what it was to this day, but and I saw them working on me. I was about 4 feet away to my right hand side, And I watched the doctor getting very irate with the nurse because she couldn't work some of the equipment, and he was using a few choice profanities to try and instruct her quickly on how to use the stuff. And then the next thing was about 5 days later, and I'm working from memory here, I came to. And I used to do an awful lot because of the work that I was involved in the military. I had to be very fit. I was very, very fit. And it was interesting. I only realized not so long ago, just two weeks after I left hospital, I was out running. I was doing a 6-mile run, and I collapsed. And I was on leave at the time, and they took me to the base down here thinking I was in the Air Force. But they took me, they got an ambulance for me, and I had a hematoma on my head. And the doctor down there told me, you know, he said, "You have a hole in your head." And I said, "Yeah, I had a big operation." And he said, "Why were you running?" And I tried to explain to him, and he said, "Look, you nearly died, you know." And I'd forgotten about that until very recently. I'd honestly forgotten about it. And there was a guy who saw me lying at the side of the road. He phoned for an ambulance, and they took me away. So, and I've been involved in other stuff where, that I don't particularly want to go into, but, where things could have gone badly wrong, but I always managed to, and at a debrief once, an officer said to me, "You're always there, but you're always unscathed. You're always okay." And I said, "Well, you know, it's maybe more luck than judgment, but," and I find this quite interesting because when I was a child, as I've shared with you, Jessica, if I can go back to the start of this, I remember these clowns that used to come in my bedroom.
All right, yeah. What is it with, we're talking about the paranormal, and it's a consistent thing where young children are terrified by clowns. What is that? I mean, I always wondered, is it some kind of weird paranormal thing? But why a clown face, of all things?
I just do not know. And so there's a whole raft of stuff here. Firstly, I can't remember a lot about my childhood. We had a kind of problem in our childhood. I grew up in a lot of poverty in Elgin, which is nearby, and my mother was alcoholic, God rest her soul. And so we had everything that came with that. And my father was always in and out of hospital sick. Mother was in and out of hospital sick. And if it hadn't been for, you know, really kind and loving grandparents, I don't think we'd be here. But, and as I grew up, my mother told me that I'd actually been born 6 weeks premature, and I'd spent a considerable time, in an incubator in 1950, and I was completely yellow, jaundiced. So somewhere along the line, things have worked out for me, you know. So there's all of this stuff, and
so you were having you would see these clowns in your dream, or you would feel like they came in your room?
Oh, they were in the room, yeah. They would come to the window first, and they would look round the window, and then withdraw slowly, and then they would look, and I would scream and shout, you know, in a local accent, as kids do, "Mommy, mommy, there's a manny at the windy," which means, "Mum, mum, there's a guy at the window." And my mother, God bless her soul, would come into this darkened bedroom. I had a sister who was a year younger, and my brother he would just have been on the go then. And she would shout, "There's no one there," and shut the door, you know, but they were there. They really were there.
Yeah.
And then I had other anomalous events as a kid where I was locked in the wardrobe.
Yeah, and we talked about that too. So now you had a wardrobe in your room.
We had 3 of us were in the same bedroom. And, I think it was about 1956, but I can remember screaming, and somebody put me in the wardrobe and locked the door from the outside. And I was screaming so loudly that, 3 kids in the street, one of whom's dead now, and they came in and released me. Now, there was another incident. I was always in cornfields, Jessica. I had a bike then. It was an old bicycle with no gears, and it was a stuck together thing. And that home that I grew up in, I would spend as much time as possible out of there. And that bike was my savior, because I would be out from the crack of dawn till last light, and sometimes later. And I would quite often, my father would punish me, would slap me and punish me for being late. But I couldn't stay in that home. I couldn't stay in the house. And I would find these cornfields and lie in cornfields. And on one occasion, my grandfather, who coincidentally had been gassed and wounded in the First World War, he gave me a small soldier's telescope, a brass telescope, and I lay in this cornfield, and I don't know what happened in the cornfield, but I do know that I was very, very frightened, and I can remember running away and onto my bike and away out of there. And the telescope, I don't know what happened to it. Now, I have a friend of mine who's ex-military and was involved in MyLab stuff quite substantially, to say the least. And he was telling me that I didn't know about the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I didn't know anything.
Yeah, that's C.S. Lewis. Yep.
And he explained to me that that's how certain ET groups take children out. They put them in the wardrobe. And I didn't know that until about 2 years ago. And the second thing was that he also used to frequent cornfields as a child. He grew up in the Midlands of England. And he had a fireman's axe. And I think an ET ship landed, which he was quite conscious of. They took him on board, but they kept the fireman's axe. So, whichever way the mop flops there are parallels.
Yeah, and also, where you taught the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is one thing, but someone in the chat actually, is an architect, said, I heard of clowns being used as screen memories to conceal something. So they were there to, so we're looking at potentially MyLab activity and how that, the wardrobe is used, the clowns, some of the other indicators that bring us back to, this intrusion in your personal life as a young child.
I would agree with that. And through subsequent events, personal development and inner experiences and talking to other people now over the last kind of 20 years, I believe that it's something to do with genetics and my mother's side of the family. My mother was Irish, ginger-haired like me. I used to have ginger hair, now it's just white. And there's something going on with that, I believe. And I had a memory. I never used to like talking about this, but I'm not at all bothered about it in any way, shape or form now. But I used to tell Alma that I had a memory of being sexually abused when I was a very small child. But I knew that there was no one in my family that could or would do that. But then I met some other people some way down the line who informed me that certain reptilian races did in fact do things like that. So again, there are these common denominators, for want of a better description, which